Marcos's private counsel, an expert on international law, and just to put it in context, was actually one of those who was responsible for having the Philippines join the International Criminal Court at one point. We have with us former Palace spokesperson, Harry Roque. Attorney Roque, it's wonderful to see you back on Get Start.
Yes, good morning, Karen. It's always a privilege. But let me start off by saying that as counsel to President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, he and I met last night, and he has made his position very clear on the ICC. Now that he is no longer president, he no longer has immunity from suit. All those who have gripes or complaints against him should file their criminal complaints before a Philippine prosecutor. And if there is probable cause, he is willing to face them, but before a Philippine court. And if he's found guilty for violating the Philippine IHL law, which restates the crimes punishable under the ICC, then he will face the consequences and face time in a Philippine jail. Under no circumstance will he allow any foreign prosecutor, any foreign judge, any foreign court to exercise jurisdiction over him. And this, Karen, of course, is consistent with the principle of complementarity. When we became a member of the ICC, and you're correct, I was actually chairperson of the ICC for the coalition at that time when we became a member, we never intended the ICC to be a substitute for domestic legal systems. It was very clear under the principle of complementarity that the court should only exercise jurisdiction when domestic institutions are unable and or unwilling to exercise jurisdiction. There is inability when there is, in fact, no virtual government working. And if you look at the cases pending in the ICC, many of the cases involve Sudan, which for all intents and purposes is a failed state. There is no pending criminal cases because there are no courts functioning to punish these individuals. And there is, of course, unwillingness when there are immunity statutes. And it's very clear in the Philippines that presidents enjoy only immunity from suit while in office. And we have had two presidents, in fact, who were immediately jailed after their terms of office ended. So our courts, our legal institutions are neither unwilling or unable, and complainants should file their cases before Philippine institutions and not the ICC. He also said, and actually this idea came from him, and I was really impressed because it's an idea that I did not even think of. It really was his solution, that if for any reason that the ICC will continue to exercise its jurisdiction, he will go before Philippine courts for a restraining order to restrain the Philippine police from serving the warrant of arrest against him, because he will argue that the Philippine courts are able and willing to prosecute these cases, and therefore there's no basis for foreign institutions to interfere, and this is a consequence of being a sovereign country.
No, all right. Okay. Wow. That must have been a very long meeting, Attorney Roque. Can you share behind the scenes a bit? Where did you see the former president? What issues did you discuss specifically, other than the two you've just announced?
We met in Resort Park Hotel. Okay. It was attended by former Executive Secretary Medialdea, by Solicitor General Maynard Guevara, by myself, and then there's PCGG chairman, if I'm not mistaken, and DOJ, someone from the Department of Justice as well. The sole topic was really the ICC, and it took about 4 hours. I had to excuse myself because I have an early day today, but I left the meeting at around 11 and we started at 6.
Okay. Now, for the president, the former president, to meet with you regarding the ICC, would it be fair to say he's actually quite concerned?
Well, he just wants to make it very clear that he has been consistent on his position on the ICC. No one should interfere with the domestic legal processes of a sovereign state unless it is shown that we have a failed state or that our criminal justice system has completely stopped from working. Again, compare us with Sudan, a country where many of the cases being tried by the ICC happened. This is not the case as far as the Philippines is concerned. And personally, as a member of the Philippine Bar, I will never admit that our courts are unable or willing to exercise jurisdiction over crimes which are cognizable by domestic courts here in the Philippines.
All right. I wanted to ask you on a personal capacity. You were also tapped by President Marcos Jr. to be his private counsel regarding the ICC. If a case is filed against former President Duterte regarding the drug war, does this mean you will be his lawyer?
Well, I think we need to emphasize that I could become his lawyer. For all intents and purposes, I am counsel for President Duterte as well, no?
Okay.
Because I have given legal advice.
Yeah.
Although under President Marcos, he did not give me 20 pesos. So he owes me 20 pesos, no? But he has not retained the services of counsel in the ICC because I'm also a list council member of the ICC.
Until today, sir. Until today. Okay,
Which means he has no intentions of allowing the ICC to have jurisdiction over his person, no? And that is why he's ready with the legal remedy of going to a Philippine court to restrain the PNP from enforcing any warrant of arrest if in fact one is issued by the ICC. And his basic ground, of course, is that we are a sovereign state, we are not a failed state, and therefore the ICC has no jurisdiction because it is only complementary to Philippine legal system.
Okay, you're in a very curious and interesting situation, given that you're in the list of counsels in the ICC. Are you in a quandary? Should you be advocating for the ICC investigation for the Philippines? Is that required of you, Attorney Roque? I mean, at one point, being palace spokesperson, I would understand you'd have to take the stand of the president, but now you're a private citizen. What happens now with your position in the ICC?
Well, these counsels are defense counsels primarily, although some of us can also represent victims. No, in fact, in the Philippine situation, I'm counseling for former president, but in the Russian situation, I've been retained by Ukraine, no, to represent victims. No,
that's
so like
interesting.
any other court, we're a bar association, no. And it's important that both victims and accused should have competent representation before the courts. But I completely agree with the position of the president. Because again, you have to look at the countries where the ICC has exercised jurisdiction. These are, for all intents and purposes, failed states with no functioning courts. That is not the case. And I challenge all the complainants in the ICC to file their cases before Philippine institutions. Because I have filed cases for extralegal killings. Have you forgotten Maguindanao massacre case?
Yes.
That resulted in multiple convictions for 57 counts of murder because one case was dismissed. No? Pemberton was convicted, albeit given probation. There's another torture case that's still being tried in court, Evangelista, the suspected thief whose private parts were tied to a door. No? So my challenge to these lawyers filing cases in the ICC is, why were you not filing cases in the Philippines in the first place? I know for a fact that the Supreme Court has taken cognizance of a petition for the issuance of writ of amparo, and the Supreme Court has in fact asked the PNP through the OSG to account for all the cases of killings. No, so there is in fact an ongoing Supreme Court investigation on these killings, no less. So why would the foreign court exercise jurisdiction when no less than the Philippine Supreme Court has taken cognizance of the matter? This goes to the very heart of treaty consent to be bound by the ICC. We never agreed to surrender domestic jurisdiction. Only that when our systems don't work, then the ICC should exercise jurisdiction.